You know, I opened my meditation app this morning. I have this Insight Timer app, and it always has a saying on, you know, it comes up first. And this morning it was Thich Nhat Hanh, and it just said 4 words: no mud, no lotus. And I was like, yeah, so simple. 4 words: no mud, no lotus. And that sort of weaves into what I'm going to be talking about today, because we are continuing our voyage of birthing a greater reality. That's the book by Robert Brumet that is the inspiration for this talk series. And into chapter 4 we are. Does anybody have a copy? I forgot to bring mine up and hold it up. Oh, okay, all right. So in chapter 4, he talks about and he gives us specific techniques for bringing ourselves back to wholeness by reclaiming those lost and rejected parts of ourselves. And he says, as we face our inner demons, we transform them into angels. So we face our inner demons, we transform them into angels. Thank you, Mel. Let's see. How many of you are reading this copy? And maybe there's a couple of book studies, right? It's not too late to join if you still want to. We have some really fascinating discussions in our group. So he's talking about the shadow self, which we began to explore last week, right? The shadow self, those rejected parts of us that sort of hang out in the shadows because we can't accept parts of us. And he talks about subpersonalities too, which I think is kind of a psychological term. And when I read that, I sort of interpreted that as the inner chorus of critical voices. Anybody familiar with an inner chorus of critical voices? Got a big hand up back there. The inner chorus. It reminds me of something a friend of mine said years ago that I still remember. And she said, my mother is always criticizing me. And she's been dead for 10 years. So it's these critical voices from our childhood and our early adulthood that kind of embed themselves into this inner choir of critical voices that can really wreak havoc, right? And both of these dynamics, if unaddressed, can really impede our spiritual growth, can block the flow of good in our lives, can sabotage our efforts, sabotage our success. And so he recommends creating a dialogue with these disowned parts of us and really open up to hearing their voice. So he recommends journaling as one of the techniques to do that. And so you really kind of get into a place where you can invite this voice or these voices and really kind of listen, just be a presence of listening and allow that to come through your hand, through the pen and onto the page. And, you can ask like, how did you develop in the first place? What is your purpose? What do you want me to know? And what gift do you bring? And just listen and dialogue back and forth. So that creates a conversation, and now you're open to what that might be. And then he recommends forgiveness. Forgiveness of these places in us. And forgiveness for ourselves. For not listening. Forgiveness for our cell phones. It's okay. We're forgiving. We're in an energy of forgiveness right now. We're flowing in forgiveness. And that feels so good, right? Forgiving ourselves for rejecting those parts of us. And then offering love, embracing all parts of us in love. And he says that transforms that negative energy into something beneficial that can serve us. Isn't that beautiful? The power of love can transform a negative energy into something beneficial that can serve us. So as an example, like say we have a shadow self that is anger, called anger, which can be very destructive, right? But once healed and reintegrated, that shadow self can maybe give us a voice to speak up if it's been difficult for us, or to create boundaries if that's something we haven't been able to do, or go march at a protest, but it no longer sabotages our relationships because it's no longer in control. It's in its proper place. You see? So another example could be, and he brings this up, the judge, the shadow self called judge, wherein we judge others consistently. So when healed and reintegrated within us, this shadow self can remind us of all the times we are judging ourselves, all the times we're not accepting ourselves fully, or all the times that we are in resistance to what is. So it can be an alert for us, kind of an alert system, right? Oh, yeah, I'm thinking I'm judges, but yeah, I think that's in me. Where are those times I can't accept myself? Where are those places that I'm not loving myself? I'm judging, critical of myself. An alert system, you see? So again, so that it doesn't sabotage our relationships or our work life or our spiritual growth. Then he has many other examples of that kind of thing. Are you kind of getting how a healed shadow self, I mean, it seems really negative and like something you don't even want to, but once we get in there, listen to it, heal it and reintegrate it, it can really serve us in a beautiful way and help bring us back to wholeness. So he also recommends listening to our bodies and those places where unresolved grief or a resistance to accepting ourselves fully gets stored, where this stuff gets stored in our physical bodies, because our physical bodies are kind of a mirror or a physical representation of kind of what's going on in our soul and our mind. So he recommends body work, getting some body work done. And when I read that, I thought, you know what? In this community, we have lots of people who do body work. I was thinking of Lorraine Lewis, who does Traeger. Have you everybody gotten a Traeger from Lorraine Lewis? Okay. That shakes some stuff loose, releases some of those blockages. Oswaldo, he offers physical and energetic healing, really, with shamanic stuff, right? Kellen with sound bowls. There are other people here who offer massage. We got Michael Savino back there, massage. Getting into those places where we've stored that negative stuff. We can't face it, or it's resistance, or whatever it is. We want to move that stuff out and release those blockages. There's a guy that comes in Wednesday evening, and he offers deep stretch yoga. Boy, that'll set you free. Let me tell you. Woo! So the whole idea of addressing these things and addressing them on every level, spirit, mind, and body, helps us to be able to be more present and open to our spiritual self, to that divine, universal I that I am that we've been talking about in this talk series. And last week, I was talking about how some people have had an experience in their life where they've had a sudden opening to this divine self that they are. You call it a mystical moment or cosmic consciousness experience, or just sort of sudden revelation of, wow, oneness. Or, you know, I'm more than this body. I am more than the thoughts in my mind. And so I promised last week that I would leave space in the service today to hear from you. From you. So if anybody has thought this week, and I asked you to think about it this week, but if you're, just coming today and you just thought, oh, I know something, an experience in your life where you had a sudden opening or a mystical experience, or suddenly, it's just like different. I can see different. I see differently right now. My perception is opened up. So there's a little microphone right here that's set up for you. Who wants to be the first brave soul and come up and share a moment like that? Okay, it doesn't have to be this big, oh my God, I'm sailing with the cosmos. It could just be an experience where you just thought, wow, I really get it. Roshana. And then.
So, excuse me. I used to play music full time for about 12 years in California, Texas, Hawaii. And then I came back to the mainland, got a regular job. But I still used to play at churches on weekends and stuff. And so anyway, I was playing at this big Pentecostal church, and it was in a big round room. And I got up on the stage in the center of this circle. And I was playing I Exalt Thee at this church. And the words are just, O Lord, O God, you are exalted far above all the earth, something like that. And then the chorus is just, I exalt thee, I exalt thee, I exalt thee, I exalt thee. Well, I was playing my flute. I didn't sing any of the words, but I was thinking the words. So I start playing, and I'm playing with a background track. And it starts off very slow, and then it builds slowly. And around the second verse, second time through, the only way I can explain it is that it felt like this door behind me, this double door, opened up, and all of a sudden God walked in. It was just whoosh through the whole room, and I started like trembling, and the whole congregation got up on their feet, and they started like yelling, Amen, hallelujah, and speaking in tongues, stomping their feet. And I'm just like, kept playing and finished the song. It has this big build-up. And of course, it was an emotive song, but this was amazing. So anyway, it's done. I walk back to my seat. I can barely walk because I'm trembling so much. And what I loved about this experience was that the people in the Pentecostal church got it. Nobody came and said, oh, you were amazing. Oh, my God, you were so awesome. It was like, thanks for coming. Wasn't that amazing? It was like, it wasn't me, but it happened to come through me, and they all got that.
Thank you. And sometimes that energy is so powerful, our bodies take a moment to try to adjust to hold it, right? That's probably why you were shaking. Yeah. Yeah, Catherine.
So, early in my 20s, can you hear me? Early in my 20s, or maybe mid-20s, I was in a job in Fayetteville, and the job wasn't working. I knew I was going to be asked to leave because my boss and I weren't getting along, so my job was threatened. I'd also fallen into a brief relationship with someone who stole all my money. And so I was losing a job, all my money was gone. And then I come to find out that this person is a major con artist thief, and he threatens me with my life. So I am in this really alone place, really being threatened in every way. And I remember, this is like a Kennedy assassination moment that you can't forget where you were. I was driving down the road, and I was pretty much in shock, but this message just came through me that said they can take your money, they can take your job, they can even take your life, but you exist. And there was no separation, that I had a soul way beyond all of those factors. So the fear just sort of dissipated for me. And then I was able to gather resources to find the new job, to find a place to live where I was safe, and to move on. But it's a moment in time that I will never forget, because it was so affirming of spirit, of me being one with spirit. So, thank you.
That's beautiful. It changed your life.
I meant to start that from mud to lotus.
From mud to lotus, yeah. No mud, no lotus. Yes, Pat.
So, it was 2001, and it was not long after 9/11, and my late husband and I were on a sailing trip. We loved to sail together. That was our passion. And we were in Edenton, North Carolina, and all these wonderful synchronistic events happened. Eden was the hometown of his UNC roommate who was dead, Dickie D. Dixon, real southern town. And all these wonderful things happened, but it was a Sunday, and we were on our sailboat, and I was fixing dinner, and all of a sudden he bends over like this, and I say, "What's the matter?" And then he's on the floor, and he's face down, and he goes unconscious, and I said, "You're scaring me. Don't come back to me. You can't do this." And so he did come back to consciousness, but he was groaning, So I called the ambulance, and we got him to the emergency room, and I'm with him, and the doctors are with him. This is in Edenton, North Carolina, a small southern town. And they tell me that he has a descending aortic aneurysm. And the nurse in me just goes totally into denial. I forgot that those are usually deadly. And they're trying to get a helicopter from either Norfolk or UNC to get him to surgery. And so I was right there with him. I was holding his hand. I had one hand on his thigh and the other hand holding his thigh, and just saying, "I love you." And I was thinking, we were talking, this is going to be great. Tomorrow, the helicopters, and you'll have a surgery, and I'll follow you in the car, and we'll be celebrating how wonderful this is. And then the doctor said, "You need to leave the room. We need to do some work. You need to leave the room." And I would have fought, except I didn't want to delay. I would have fought to be there, but I didn't want to delay whatever they were going to do. And so I was standing at the nurse's station, and I had these tears in my eyes, and one of the nurses took me to this private room, and I was crying, and all of a sudden, I was in an altered space. I was in an altered space, and it was probably only 30 seconds long, but it felt like an eternity. And I had a vision, and Bill and I, were sitting cross-legged in the hand of God. We were sitting cross-legged in the hand of God. And I heard God's voice say, "It's all right. It's all right." And I found this incredible peace. This incredible peace. And then the scene changed, and I was standing on a riverbank, and Bill was a very determined man, and he was swimming against a strong current, trying to get back to me. And I was standing there with this peace, and I said to him, "It's all and to myself, really, it's all right. It's all right. And I knew in that moment that he'd either somehow pulled through, because I was still in denial about what an aneurysm was. It's a big burst of a blood vessel, major artery. It's bleeding out. And I knew in that moment that everything was either all right, or that he had that he'd come back, or that he'd transitioned. And I felt this incredible peace. I go out the door, and here comes the doctor with the long face. Bill had passed. And the energy from that experience got me through the 3 weeks. He was a well-known person. The 3 weeks of a big funeral and UNC alumnus, the energy of that peace and even that vitality to know that everything is all right in that space got me through that.
Wow. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. All right. Joe. Joe, you want to come up? Yeah.
I don't want to follow that.
It's all
So in my early 20s and late teens, I was struggling mightily with what's the purpose of life. And I did some human potential movement stuff. And in one of those experiences, things just shifted. I suddenly saw, and I think you would call it a sixth chakra vision, because I saw everything was God. Although at the time I used the word loving divine consciousness. Everything. There was nothing that wasn't God. And it wasn't the next level up, which is what I think is the nicer one, where, oh, I'm that. I didn't get that one. But I saw it as everything else. So it was just like, so that's what this is all about. And that has kind of guided my life since then. And there's one little piece that doesn't quite fit in. It was a companion vision that came a little bit later when I was shown the mind of God. And in the mind of God, there was a little current, a little stream. The mind of God was just movement, all kinds of movement, huge. But there was a little current, little stream. That was time. And there's another little piece that I'm pretty sure was there, though it's 50 years ago. My memory's weak. It was like a little nugget that was space.
Wow.
So that's my...
Oh, I thought Spiro was going to come up with. Yeah, Carmelo.
Kind of a little similar. A few years back, I was at a shamanic ceremony and doing some plant medicine, and really was dealing with this question of like, what does it mean that we and divine are one? I want to understand this better. Show me. And I was like, I went in with this open, and suddenly I found myself in this state where everything was just energy. And it was so overwhelming. And it was so overwhelming that it was awe. And it's like, wow. And it was just, things were being birthed, galaxies, and it was just pure birthing. And it was so intense, I'm like, I can't. If me and you are this, I can't deal with this. And it's like, the words came through, all of you is me, but you are not all of me.
Yay!
And it was so much, I was like, I can't, I really thought, I'm gonna walk out of this and my hair is gonna be all white. It was so, I actually went to the bathroom to look. I was so convinced I was gonna be all white because it was such an overwhelming. And then this thought said, do you want to see me in a way you can handle me? And I'm like, yes.
Why?
And just at that same time, this amazing electrical storm hit, and there was lightning going off. It was here in North Carolina. And then I felt love, and I saw people, and it's like, so the yin and yang was like, the birthing creative part of me is too much for you. So I will show you me through everything else. And so that was, from that moment, it was like, everything that exists is me. So just look at me there and don't bother with the other one, because it's obviously was a little too much. But I got to see the two facets, the nonverbal everything, which was, I understand awe. And then but everything else is in a way that you can understand. So just get me through the other way. And I'm like, I don't need to see the other one anymore.
That's enough. Oh, that's amazing. All right, come on up, Sharon.
Nothing to do with that. So my experience was changing from being stuck in science only and in an agnostic kind of headspace that I didn't want to be in, but that's all I had. I had grown up so Pentecostal, and left that. So I was just like, okay, is there a God? So we were in India visiting our son, and we got special permission to go and have this meditation. I wasn't much of a meditator because I really wasn't much of a believer in anything. And so I'm sitting in this big circle of meditators, and I'm peeking around. I'm like, ooh, wow, that person has good posture. Look how straight. They've probably been meditating all their life. And then I'm looking over here. Oh, somebody sneezed. Who was that who sneezed? And I'm just like completely just not at all meditating. But at the same time, in the center of this meditation space is this ball, a sphere. It was a kind of a focal point for people to be able to look at during meditation. So I keep looking at the ball, and I'm like, oh, wow, those are really cool fish inside the ball. So long story short, we get done the meditation, and we're walking out, our son and Carmen and I. And I said to my son, who lived at this place and meditated there all the time, I said, wow, those were really cool fish inside the ball. And he looked at me and said, Mom, what are you saying? There's no fish inside the ball. And I said, yeah, the water line was here, and they were nipping on the surface underneath. They were black fish about this big. And I'd look away, and I'd come back to the ball. Oh, yeah, fish are still there. Look away, come back. It was just so unexciting. It wasn't anything that I thought was happening. But as it began to sink in, I started on this, what do fish mean? What's the message? And then I finally realized there is it could have been fish, it could have been giraffes. It didn't matter. The point was, I saw something that couldn't be explained. I saw something with my own eyes that was beyond reality, the earthly reality, and it opened up everything for me. It changed everything. I suddenly became open to everyone's story, and just, it's been a thrilling ride ever since. So.
I love it. Okay, we have time for one more. Gaines, come on up.
There's no such thing as a long story short, but I'll try. About 40 years ago, I was 39 years ago. I looked on, my weekend was canceled. I was going to a workshop and it was canceled. And I looked on the bulletin board in my house, and there was a notice there for a retreat with Gordon the Singer at Seven Oaks in Virginia. And I called about this. It was a special retreat called a Vision Quest. Never been to a Vision Quest. So I went to I signed up for called and signed up. I did what I usually do. I bought a six-pack and put it in the trunk of the car. if you like to drive and drink, that's what you do, is you put your booze in the back of in the trunk so you don't get arrested with just one beer. So I had a $10 tent that I had bought that was in the trunk of the car, and I took a bag of apples and some matches and went to the fishing quest. Well, we did the medicine wheel there, which I was introduced to, so that was 40 years ago, and we did a sweat lodge. Then they took each one of us, there were 6 of us, and left us in the woods for 3 days, checked in on us every day. Well, it rained the second night. I didn't trench the tent, so I journaled all night, got wringing wet. The next morning, I took the matches that were still dry, found a tree that had some dry bark, and I built a fire, and I spoke in I spoke in tongues, which I'd never done before. There was a stream nearby, and when I looked at this stream, it was after the rain. I saw beer cans and liquor bottles in that, and the message was that I was ready to stop drinking. So I have a motive in doing this, in that for several years I have felt ready to lead a vision quest. I'm ready to lead a vision quest. So if you're at all interested in knowing what that's about and would like to spend a couple of days in a $10 tent without any booze in the woods, I'd like to lead. I'm ready to lead a vision quest. Thank you.
All right, thank you. You see all these stories. Thank you, everyone who got up and shared. It just kind of opens our mind to what's possible, that there actually is something beyond our three-dimensional reality, beyond our body, beyond our thinking mind, things that we can't always explain. And it's so good to hear the stories because it opens us up to the possibilities. And it makes it easier for us to access it. So after this experience, I want you all to sort of pay attention to the next couple of weeks and just open to the idea of an experience. You know, everybody's experience is different, as you can see, right? But open up to the idea that there is something waiting for you. Just invite it in and pay attention to the synchronicity. Okay? Let's do that and come back next week and let me know what happened. All right, namaste. Hi, it's Reverend Victoria here. I'm at Unity Center of Peace with our house band, Bright Matter. Hello. Yeah, and if this video has inspired you or empowered you or opened your heart, opened your consciousness, or even just given you hope, we ask that you support what we're doing here by making a donation today, going to unitychapelhill.org or clicking the link below. And we thank you. Thank you.